Hello, my beautiful people. It's your girl Riri Okoye, your happiness coach. It's been a minute, and on today's episode, I'm going to be talking to you about change and how change affects your happiness. It can either work for you or work against you, but a lot of the times it's really to do with mindset. If this is the first time that you are tuning into this channel, I am a happiness coach, and my mission is to make the world a happier place. And I do that through talking through strategies to help you to improve your happiness and well-being. So let's get with it with change. So change can be uncomfortable. It can be exciting. It can be uncertain. It can be shaky. But the thing about life is that life, there's always change. We can't run away from it, So it's just up to us to adapt to change. And I'm going to be using some case studies of, various changes that I've gone through and how I've navigated those circumstances, and hopefully it will help you. Now, what I will say is that from a young age, my life was just full of changes. I went to about 3 different primary schools. By the age of 11, I was at my 4th school. I've lived in 4 different locations by the time I was 11. I've lived between Nigeria and London so many different times throughout my life, So I've always been thrown into change, whether I liked it or not. And you do adapt, And that's the first thing that I want to say about, when you are making that change. Because I know that there's this big move for people to move out of Nigeria. They call the term Japa. So people have Japad to the UK, to Canada, to everywhere in the world, But one thing that I will say about when you are making that change is that you have to recognize that it's a big change. It's a big change, not just the location, but the environment, the culture. There's so many different things that are going to change. And when you're on the other side, before you change, you might think that you are going to the land of honey. You're going to the land of sugar. You're going to the land of constant light. But there are other things in that land that may not be as attractive as where you're leaving. So you just have to have an open mind, because sometimes what people do is they get so excited about Japan, and then when they get into that environment and see that there are different nuances, different cultural things that do not really align with them, then they start to get depressed, because they haven't sort of not just done their research, but they haven't just they haven't adjusted their their mindset. And they haven't said to themselves that change is going to happen. And I have to recognize that even though I feel as if I'm going to I'm going to a new world and everything, there is going to be change. And if you have that mindset, then you probably will not get as discouraged when you find that the road is not paved with gold, okay? Another thing that I've found when I've gone through change, especially change of environment, is that I've had to change my social circles. Obviously, if I'm miles away, I may not have the same friends that I had when I was in one location, and I have to make new friends. And in making new friends, again, you have to understand the different cultures, the different nuances, and just be open to understanding that people are different. Okay, and sometimes when you're going through that change, because there was a time when I lived in the UK and I had so many friends here, and when I went to Lagos and I lived there, and when I came back here, some of the people that I had as friends before I had relocated, we're no longer friends again. And you have to accept the fact that sometimes that happens. It's like, not everybody is in your life forever. Some people are in your life for a season. And so there were certain friendships that I had before I left, and then when I came back to the UK, they are no longer my friends. It's changed. That is just the way life is. Okay. Another thing about change, especially when you move to new environment, there may be differences in food, even in getting, the food that you used to eat, the authentic food that you used to eat, you may not find that food as accessible as you used to. And all of these things you're just adapting to change. Another thing that threw me was when I changed status. And it wasn't just location, but it was just status in terms of who I am. So, for example, I've been an entrepreneur for the past 15 years. I've been my own boss. I'm a boss lady. I have my own time. I do my own things. I get my own clients, and that was very much, that's how I've been walking. But I made the decision, and I keep reminding myself that it was my decision to go back to corporate. And when I went back to corporate, obviously I'm not working for myself anymore. I'm working for a company. And that was a big change, that to a certain degree, I kind of knew that I was going to it. But when it really hit me, and I'm like, wow, I've really had to not just change, location, but I've had to change in terms of culture, in terms of the work, and in terms of my status as a CEO who had so much more freedom into a corporate world. And that is a big change, okay? And so it's something that I just had to adapt to. And I was even thinking about recently another change. Well, it was a small change, but it was a change. When me and my mom, we went to Nashville because I had a conference out there. And, we had to adapt to the food, for our palates, the food was not as tasty as we are used to. We went to a restaurant and there was a long queue to get into that restaurant, and we were so excited about eating that food. It was Southern food, but when we ate the food, it just didn't taste like what we expected. It wasn't as fresh as what we wanted, but we had to adapt. We were in that place for about 5 days, so we had to adapt to the food there. It was a change for us, even though it was a small change. We were coming back to our environment. We still had to adapt, So these are some of the things that we have to adapt to in life. It's just the way life is, Let me think of anything else. Yeah, even in terms of social media has gone through a lot of change. I remember when I was when I had my own business, I had a lot of time on my hands. I didn't realize it until now that I'm working for corporate, but I had a lot of time. And during that time, I was running a movement called Raising Confident Girls. And before that, I was throwing myself into all kinds of charities, because I had the time. And even on social media, I was very intentional about birthdays, and whoever was my Facebook friend, I'd send them a birthday message. It was because I had the time. But now my circumstances has changed, and although I still love Facebook, I'm not on there as much. So I may miss your birthday, and I may not wish you a happy birthday, but it's not intentional. It's just the fact that my life has changed for me. I'm not on there as much as I used to be. So if I don't wish you a happy birthday, don't take it personally. It's just Riri has changed. Riri is not on there as much as she used to, and even certain friendships, because one of the things about Facebook is it shows you memories, doesn't it? And there's certain friendships, when they come up on my Facebook memory, it just gives me a smile, because I'm thinking to myself, wow, I remember that season with this person, we were like this, and I never thought that we would be apart, but it's just all part of life. There are friends that, of course, you're going to be with forever, for life. You've got school friends that you've known for a long time, but there are other people in your life that they just come through your life in seasons and they go, and it's okay. It's just life. So if you can recognize that life has these changes, then you will not be so frustrated. Even for us as women, we're going through all our changes. We have, sometimes I remember circumstances where I would feel so hot and my husband would be so cold, and I'd be like, oh, I need the door open. But it's all the changes that I'm going through as a lady, Anyway, and then the last change that I wanted to talk about that's quite funny is the change in hairstyle. As you know, I've got these Goldilocks at the moment, and I remember one of my colleagues in my new place, when she's seen my hair change, she's like, oh wow, your hair's changed again. And I said to her, it's that black girl magic. And guess what? She's never asked me about my hair change again, even though I've changed my hairstyle so many times, I think she was embarrassed by that in comment. But it wasn't intentional. I wasn't trying to embarrass her, but she was like, oh my God, you changed your hair again. And I was like, yeah, it's the black girl magic. Anyways, yeah, so change is something that we have to ride with, we have to be prepared for, And one thing, before I leave, there's one thing that I was thinking about recently, and it was a conversation that I had with a friend, because, it's just this thing of change, adapting to change, and actually changing? Because have you noticed that there's some friends of yours, maybe you've known them for a while, even like decades ago, and they're still stuck where they were like in the 90s. And talking to them, it's almost as if you've gone through so much and you're like, what's going on with you? And they haven't made any progress. And that was something that I was wondering, why is that? How come there can be two people that had the same, they had the same mindset 20 years ago, and 20 years later, one of them has flown, is doing so much, and the other person is still stuck in the 90s. And I just was trying to understand that. So if that is something that you understand, maybe you want to put it in the comment section. But anyway, just generally in terms of change, please put your comments in the comment section. Has this episode been useful for you? What has your experience been like with change? Have you been able to adapt? Does it scare you? Are you excited about change? So let's keep the conversation talking in the comment section. Thank you for watching. As I said, I'm here to transform lives. And one thing I want to leave you on this note is that even though change is scary, even though sometimes there's uncertainty with change, there is always light at the end of the tunnel with regards to change. Okay? So once again, my name is Riri Okoye. I'm your happiness coach, and I look forward to your comments, and I look forward to serving you again soon. Take care for now, and remember, change is part of life, and it's up to you to be intentional about creating the happy life that you want for yourself. Take care now.